Welcome to the Blues Brothers YouTube channel with myself, Charlie, and today I am joined by friend and fellow Chelsea fan James Pike Watson, fresh off the European success at the weekend with another Champions League in the cabinet. All club football is now put to bed until August, but already the transfer rumours are hotting up with the window opening on June 9th. So myself and James are going to be going through a few of the transfer stories doing the rounds for our club, Chelsea. So first off, James, thank you for joining me. Let's get stuck right into it. It's obvious now that we're desperate for a centre forward and number 9, that's someone that can score goals, which really adds the next dimension to this side. 3 names that have been linked for a long time now: Harry Kane, Romelu Lukaku and Erling Haaland. Let's start with probably the most realistic one of the 3, Romelu Lukaku. What are your thoughts on a potential deal to see him return to Stamford Bridge this summer?
Well, I think recently, obviously he's been playing really well under Antonio Conte and they won the league. And I think I never really thought of him as an option if Conte had stayed and they had sort of bought more players this summer and they sort of went big to try and go further in the Champions League and build upon what they've done this season. But now that Conte has gone, who he had a strong relationship with, I'm seeing it as, he's 28, I'm seeing it as a more likely option, not only because Conte has gone, but apparently Inter to raise some money as well. They're in some serious debt. And they're already, I think, selling Hakimi to PSG for the region of 70, 80. And I think Lukaku could be another player that they need to offload in order to raise some funds, because they're in some ridiculous amount of debt, like 250 million euros. So they're obviously going to have to sell some players. Conte's gone. And I think Lukaku would relish coming back to the Prem and proving himself at a top team again. Not that Inter aren't a top team, obviously they've won the league, but like if they're going to sell other players, basically the team's going to get worse from this season. He wants to build upon what he did with them. And I think Chelsea could be the right place for him. And obviously he's a goal scorer wherever he goes. The amount of goals he's got is actually ridiculous. Like when you look at his stats and stuff for his age. So yeah, I would definitely take him. And I think, as you said, he's probably the most realistic out of the 3.
Yeah, just another thing on Lukaku. As you said, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves for his goal-scoring record. If he was to arrive this summer, how would you see him fitting into that front 3 if we stick with the 3-4-3 formation? Do you think he'd slot in quite nicely and it would suit him, or take a little bit of adjusting?
I think it would take a little bit of adjustment. I mean, he's played with a back 5 with Conte, obviously, but that back 5 is a bit different to how Tuchel plays with it. And I think Tuchel seems to want someone who's quite dynamic, and that's why Havertz was playing there, and someone who can sort of is good with their feet and stuff. And Lukaku's not the strongest in that sense. While he's improved loads under Conte, especially with his back to goal and just being quite a physical presence and stuff, it might take a bit of adjustment. But as we've said, he's been a proven goal scorer wherever he is. So I think with the right players around him, he'll definitely bang them in, and I think he could be a good signing. I don't know how much he would cost, but he'd probably be cheaper than the other 2 at least.
Yeah,
and I think he'd be great.
yeah, I certainly think he'd be the cheapest of the 3, somewhere in the region of around 80 to 90 million euros. And I think it would be a good fit. So we have to watch this space on that one. But obviously, moving on to another striker that we've been linked with. Obviously, it's been well known now that Harry Kane has stated his desire to leave. I think as Chelsea fans, this one's more of a fantasy than actually having a realistic chance of happening. I mean, there's been rumours and reports of potentially players plus cash deal, which would see the likes of squad players such as Tammy Abraham, possibly Callum Hudson-Odoi, moving to Spurs in exchange for money, and Harry Kane. How realistic do you think it is that Kane will be playing in a Chelsea shirt next season?
I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think the idea that he'll play in a Chelsea shirt is sort of really over optimistic thinking. Like the thing with Daniel Levy is he's kind of messed it up recently in recent seasons. Sacked Pochettino, hired Mourinho. His best player now wants to leave. Other players will probably want to leave, like Son. And then there was the whole Super League thing. So he's not exactly in the best space at the moment with the fans. So if he was to sell Kane, which it looks like he probably will have to, because Kane has stated his desire to leave, there's no way he's going to sell him to Chelsea. It's just not going to happen. It'll make him look terrible. The fans will hate him even more. So I think Kane most likely is going to City or United, but probably City from the sounds of it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we can all dream, and it would be an unbelievable signing if we could pull it off. But I
Oh,
think
definitely.
realistically, he's more likely to end up at Manchester City. But from a Chelsea perspective, I just love to see us at least try and like put a bid on the table and like
Yeah.
put the pressure on him and just see what happens from there. But that brings us on to our third striker that we've been linked with, and everyone around Europe's been linked with, Erling Haaland. It's gone a little bit quieter on that front. I know he's said a few quotes in interviews recently saying that he would honour his contract at Dortmund. They got the Champions League qualification for next season, and obviously that 66 million euro release clause kicks in next summer. Do you think there's any possibility of him going on the move this summer, or is it more likely to be a sort of a free for all next summer when that release clause kicks in?
I mean, he's my top option. I would love, like, out of all three, he'd be my top option. Considering his age, considering the amount of goals he's scored, like, I think he's going to be like one of the best players in the next like 5 to 10 years in European football. So he'd definitely be the one. The thing I don't understand with Dortmund is that if they've got this release clause of 66 million or whatever, and they know that he's going to go next summer for that amount of money, unless they somehow sign him to a new contract, then what's the point in them not selling him now this summer for like 150 mil and then using that money to buy a whole host of new players? I don't understand why they keep him just for one season. It just
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense to me.
I think from a Dortmund perspective, I just think it depends on, is it worth them getting like 150 million euros? Is that more valuable to them than an extra ceiling season with Erling Haaland in the side? I think it's something they've got to decide. But again, as you said, another plausible option is that they could get him to sign a new contract with a higher release clause in it, so they do actually get more money for him. But yeah, I think
He's never going to sign that though, is he? Like, why would he do that? That doesn't make sense to him.
Yeah, I mean, I think this summer, I think it's died down a bit on that front, but I think it could easily reignite. And I'd have to say, with that 150 million euros, what Dortmund are touting, we're one of the only clubs that can really afford to pay that. So I do think we're in with an outside chance, and the Champions League victory has also probably not done us any harm at all. But I'd have to say, out of the three, he'd be my top choice as well, just given his age and profile.
Where would he go if he was to go next summer? That's the thing. Where would he go? Because City probably signed Kane. If we've signed Lukaku, then maybe he goes, and he's not going to go to Bayern, I don't think. So maybe Madrid or Barca have such terrible finances. I don't know.
They always find a way of raising the finances somehow.
Yeah.
If like obviously if we sign a centre forward this summer, Barca obviously signing centre forwards in Aguero, I would fully expect him next summer to possibly end up at Real Madrid. But out of the three, of Lukaku, Kane, and Haaland would definitely be my top choice. But
definitely,
I think most realistically, it'll be Lukaku ending up there. Haaland's second choice probably, and then Kane, I think, is a massive outside chance. So I'd absolutely love it if it did happen. But that takes us on to another player which we've been linked with quite frequently in recent windows. Obviously, who was in the Chelsea academy. A piece in a Telegraph by Matt Law today, a well-connected sports journalist with good connections to Chelsea, stating that Declan Rice is once again on the list of transfer targets. Now, how would you feel about us pursuing a move for Declan Rice and seeing him added to that midfield area?
I think he would be a great buy. The thing is, our midfield is lacking in options. We've got Kovacic, Jorginho, Kante, and Billy Gilmore. And Billy Gilmore, is obviously still 19. And I think we need someone in there who can take the weight off Kante's shoulders a bit, because Kante's been playing so much in recent seasons that there's a risk with the amount of games played this season and the Euros, and he's coming up to 30 now, or is 30, that he'll get overloaded. And as we've seen recently, he's had quite a few injuries. And I think we need another DM in there, because when you play Jorginho and Kovacic together, or Billy Gilmore and one of the others, it just doesn't have that defensive solidity that it does when Kante's in there. And the thing with Declan Rice is he's not just a DM as well. He's actually better than Kante in terms of playing the ball, being on the ball and stuff like that. Kante is the best DM in the world, no doubt, but Declan Rice does offer you that kind of defensive sort of physicality, along with being really good on the ball, playing some passes. And then, as you said, he was in the Chelsea academy, knows Mason Mount well. I think almost like how kind of a few players like Ben Chilwell and stuff have slotted in really nicely, because they're English and they know the players around them and stuff like that. I think he'd be another player that would slot in really nicely in the midfield.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's another area that we do need to strengthen in. I think obviously it's a massive loss when Kante's not playing. We look a completely different side. And I think we just need someone in there who's a bit more combative in the middle of the park. Jorginho is, look, as well as he's done since Tuchel's come in, you know, his first thought is to slow play down, play it back. He's not really someone that looks to take the game by the scruff of the neck. Kovacic is a little bit better, but not much. So I think Declan Rice would slot in nicely. The only thing that I can see being an issue is the fact that, one, he's English, which means the price is going to be extortionate. I can't see, if a deal were to happen, us having to spend 70 million, less than 70 million.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take a lot of money to bring him. But another plus is obviously his age and the fact that if needed, he can go in as a third centre half, possibly if it looks like we're going to lose Tomori. So that's again another option there. That moves us on to the last sort of player being linked with Chelsea, and it's an interesting one, slightly in left field here, but we were linked to him back in 2016 when Antonio Conte was in charge, and it's Adama Traore of Wolves. According to the Telegraph, that same piece, Tuchel sees him as a potentially very good option at right wing back as kind of a fill-in for Reece James. What are your thoughts on Adama Traore and a potential move to Chelsea this summer?
It's not something I would have thought about immediately. It was not something that I would have, or someone I would have targeted. But if we are going to go with the back five and keep the right wing back, I can see why Tuchel thinks he might be good. He's quite physical and he's maverick enough to be good attacking wise, but probably doesn't necessarily have the kind of not the concentration, but he can sometimes not be as kind of in terms of the defensive thing, he can be a bit all over the place. And I think maybe having that third centre back there, whether it's Aspi or Reece James or whatever, will just give him that defensive cover, and he can kind of play to his strengths, which is his physicality, his pace, and his crossing. So being able to do that on the right wing back is a really safe place for him, where he can make mistakes. It's like David Luiz in the centre back, where he's kind of a bit of a maverick and isn't the best in a back four, but when put in a back five, he's allowed to thrive in it. And I think Adama Traore could be the same. So I can see why he would take a punt on him, and I don't think he'd be that expensive. Maybe 15 to 20 mil, something like that. Maybe Wolves will quote more, but I think he'd be a really good option. And Asby's not getting any younger. Reece obviously can't play every game. We've got Callum Hudson-Odoi there, but who's played well, every time he's been on the pitch. But it's an interesting one. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a priority. I say the DM and the striker are the priority. If we get him, it would be a bonus. And to be honest, I would only do it if it was a good price.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it's not one you would sort of immediately springs to mind, but you could definitely see how he could potentially be moulded into a very decent player in a right wing back role, slightly similar to how Conte transformed Victor Moses into a right wing back. I think a similar caliber of player in terms of ability. But again, I totally agree with you. The fact that that's not a priority area. We need to focus on getting a centre forward in the door and someone else to complement Kante in midfield. And if we can add, if we can add someone in the right wing back role as a bit of cover for Reece James, Azpilicueta is again not getting any younger, as you said, and it's just again some more depth to the squad. I'm not sold on Callum Hudson-Odoi playing right wing back. I think against the lesser sides it works all right because there's not much defensive work to do, but yeah, against the bigger sides, it's just not gonna. I just don't think he cuts it at the moment. I don't think that's going to be his position. But James, thank you very much for joining me. Those are the latest transfer rumours surrounding Chelsea. I'm sure there'll be plenty more through the summer. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more videos coming throughout the summer and into the start of the next season. James, thanks very much for joining me.
See you later, mate.